Did he like it, or was he not sure? Or?
I think he wasn't sure, but I think I overwhelmed him with my passion for it. Because I have a tendency to do that. If I really like something, I'm going to fight for it. And I was like, no, this is it.
Now.
Hello, welcome back to the Random Convos Over Coffee podcast. I'm Sean Burkowski.
And I'm Philip McCullough.
And
welcome.
We're getting into all things random here today. Episode 3, Phil.
Got episode 3, and still coffee.
Still coffee. Episode 3. Hopefully we didn't lose half the audience in the last 2 episodes, and we're progressing forward.
Progressing is good.
Regressing is not.
Right. And you know, doing an episode and trying not to go back and fix it all. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's part of the challenge when you want to redo every episode and just start from scratch. But we're trying not to do that.
Absolutely.
You learn as you go. So each one of these, the ideas that each one of these get better.
Yeah. So forgive us for all our mistakes and whatever else we put in the episodes, and hopefully you just keep enjoying them as they get better.
Indeed. Well, we got a good one today. I think
yes.
I've been looking forward to this one. It's been circled on the calendar, as they say in sports, right? You circle the one that you're looking forward to. This is one I'm looking forward to because this is a little bit about our origin story, how you and I met and became friends, and also one of the businesses that I started that I'm most proud of, Vintage Limited. So Vintage Limited was a company that I started back. The launch concert, which started the company and became public facing. The website launched, and we actually started taking our first sales, was Cinco de Mayo on 5/5/2007. Couple years prior to that is when the company actually started. That's a pretty interesting story. Actually connected with a friend of mine who's a recording artist, goes by the name, and very famous artist in Atlanta, the art scene. His name is Eric Nine. Was part of a crew called Remnant Militia, who then changed their name to Remnant. A group of guys who grew up together doing hip hop, and they had an amazing band that I was drawn to. Became a fan of their artists, and Eric, who is one of the lead rappers of the group, he's also a traditional artist. So he did a lot of painting and digital art as well. And Eric, how I met him, is a good story. It's kind of an interesting story. As a fan of the group, I wanted to buy their album, and their website was non-existent or very difficult to use. It was broken. And I actually reached out to Eric. Somehow I got a hold of him and let him know. I said, hey, I'm a graphic designer. I love you guys' work. I'd love to, see if I could just help you out and do your website for free, just as a fan, to help you provide your music to more people. And Eric was, gracious, was like, yeah, sure, why not? What do I got to lose?
Nice. Right.
So that's kind of started the relationship between Eric and me. And, we would have long conversations on the phone just talking about, the music industry. And obviously I was in the same business. I was doing urban music, and he was doing it as well. And so we had a lot to connect on with production and the artists that were in the music scene at that time. And so we kind of connected, and he was telling me, about some of the artwork that he did, and I was checking it out. I was like, man, you're really good. Like, I like a lot of your stuff. It's really, really good. I said, I've always wanted to do a clothing line. I said, maybe we should combine our efforts here. I've got resources to, put together apparel that I've been doing for some of my companies and my clients. Had a freelance agency that worked with customers who needed apparel. And so I would, design and develop apparel for them. I had a lot of those resources. And Eric, obviously being a great artist, has the traditional pen and ink and being able to put his thought process down on paper and make these amazing photos. And so I said,
what was the sorry, not to interrupt.
No.
What was the time frame between when you first met Eric, started doing the website, and then actually got to the stage of looking at doing the clothing company?
So I'd say probably about a year to probably about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so we started working on the website, maybe it was 05, somewhere
Okay.
around there. Maybe it was '04. I think it was '04. It was right after. So I released the album that I put together. It was right in 2004. And
Okay.
so it was right around 2004, 2005 when I connected with Eric. Actually, I'd reached out to him to get him on the album, but we just couldn't make it work at the time because everybody in the group was scattered amongst the country in different areas, so we weren't able to make that happen. But that's originally, I think, how I connected with him. Is I was reaching out to artists and I was doing production and wanted to get them involved, and so I would try to see where they were and could I fly them in and could we work together. That's how we connected
Nice.
as well.
Okay, because I know some of that ties together later when you actually did your launch event and had artists come in, and sometimes people get the feeling that this stuff just all happens. You connected, you did the website. Next thing you're doing a clothing company. Next thing you're doing this, and this, and sometimes people forget the blood, sweat, and tears that goes in that whole timeline.
Definitely.
You're putting time in, working with the artists on other projects, and then eventually get to the point where, hey, I've had this idea, and moving back into the clothing company.
Yeah, Eric's a serial entrepreneur like I am. He's a hustler. He likes to put his mind to things and make things happen and get into the trenches and make things happen. That's what he did with his group. Is he was very involved in the editing process and the creative process of their projects, and he did the album artwork. And matter of fact, the album artwork for Remnant Militia's Anthem of a Life, it was a tree. And the roots of the tree formed, different instruments. It was a microphone and a boom box, I think. But it was just the way that the artwork. Maybe I'll post it up here. You can see it. It was an awesome piece of artwork, and I loved it. And Eric actually did that for the project, and I didn't know that until him and I connected. And I said, man, we started talking about different business ideas and opportunities. And I said, you and I are kind of made of the same mold here. We're both entrepreneurs at heart. I was like, we should connect and put our talents together. I can help run the business and I can build the website and I can do the pre-production part of getting the products made. And you can be the creative mind behind the artwork and, utilize your talents there. And so we should connect. And we did. We probably spent about 2 years coming up with the concepts and the drawings and putting the pieces together. What are going to be the right pieces? How are we going to do this? But it all starts with a name, and I got a pretty funny story about that. How the name came about. So Eric and I was like, what are we going to call this thing? And I said, I got it. I says we're going to call it Vintage Limited. So he was like, what does that mean? And it's vintage. Was a lyric in an album that I listened to back in 1993. It was an old band called Hieroglyphics, and there's a song I think it was called "You Never Know," and there's a line in that song where it says "Hip hop is vintage, underground like silos, busting long range ballistics." And it was Del, I think it was Del the Funky Homo Sapien who came up with that chorus line. But that hip hop is vintage had me thinking, it is. It's classic. What is vintage in its essence? It means classic. And limited, obviously, limited edition. So it kind of clicked for me. Let's make classic apparel with limited edition art prints using the canvas of a t-shirt, of cotton t-shirts. And I was like, let's do it. So one of the ideas was we wanted to do something original. Is Eric would come up with these limited edition art prints, and we would have them printed on the shirts, but then on the inside of the tags, they would have a woven sign-on tag, and we would number each one. So it'd be like number 1 of 500 or 123 of 500. Every shirt was hand numbered on the label, and then it came with a certificate of authenticity that was hand signed by both me and Eric. So people would get the shirt, they would buy the shirt, and it would be a limited edition art print with a certificate of authenticity. So a lot of times they would buy two, right? They would buy one to keep and collect and one that they would actually wear. Yeah. So
yeah, I did that too. I still have one that I've kept to collect, and
that's cool.
One that's probably in rags by now, but I still wear it. It's great. It was a great shirt. What did Eric think of the name when you first proposed that? Did he like it, or was he not sure? Or?
I think he wasn't sure, but I think I overwhelmed him with my passion for it because I have a tendency to do that. If I really like something, I'm going to fight for it, and I was like, no, this is it. I think I came with the full package. So I created the logo, and one of the things that I came up with. him and I discussed is we needed a mark. We needed something, like the Echo Rhino or the Nike Swoosh or the Puma, the Cougar, the animal.
Right.
We needed some kind of mark that was identifiable with Vintage Limited. And I didn't want to do something cheesy. We both talked about we don't want to do a boombox or a microphone representing hip hop.
Right.
We wanted to do something a little bit more original than that. So one of the things is, him and I talked about in our phone conversations was, how lions move in packs and they protect their pride. And, they don't spend effort that's not needed. So they move in sprints, not in marathons. And they kind of perch and they look and they protect their pride and they're always on the prowl, but they're just looking. And then at the moment they pounce and they jump and they take down their prey and they take care of their pride, their family, their people. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly, there's a lot of mentality around what we did and how we identified with the heart of a lion. It was kind of like our mantra was like we had the heart of a lion. And so I came up with the lion iconography. It was this tattoo looking icon of a lion inside of a shield. And that was where Vintage Limited came from. That logo.
I always like that logo. It was nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was very proud of that icon, that lion and the shield, because it just represented so much me personally and of Eric and, the heart of a lion mentality that we had and just what we wanted to convey in the clothing line.
Nice. So how much of that was already done before Eric had a chance to...
all of it. So I did it all, and I said, I was on a tear, man. If I'm on a passionate tear, I'm sitting down at the computer, I'm sketching, I'm putting the stuff together, and it was like instantaneous. I wanted to show him like, hey, I'm serious about this, and I came to him with, we talked about it on the phone conversations, but I'm not one to just talk about stuff. I got to get down and do it. And so I did it, just if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I go all in, full passion.
Yeah, I've learned that about you for sure.
Indeed. So I presented it to him and he was right on board. So we started and immediately started. He started digging through some of his old art books. So part of the website that I did for him is he sent me packages and packages of all his old art. And I got to look through it. And because what he wanted to do with the website is he wanted to convey some of the art that he had done through the years for Remnant on the website. And so I got to see some of his old videos that he did and some of the artwork that he created. And I think there was one in particular that I saw that I shared with him. I said, we should do something with this one. It was, I think it was the one where it was, there's a train coming down the middle of a street, and it was almost like a forest. So it was a combination of city life and, let's say like an African scene or something like that. It was a very, very abstract scene where it was combining both city life and nature. And I like that combination, that juxtaposition of the two. And I was like, we got to do something with that one. That for sure, like that's a great piece. And there was another one who came up with an idea called What's on Your Mind? And it was a character's face, and he's thinking, he's listening to music, he's got headphones on, and there's all these pictures coming out of his head. There's a woman, so he's thinking about relationships. There's a boombox. There's a book open, and he's reading a book. So he's all these different things in this person's world were displayed coming out of his head. It was called What's on Your Mind? And that was a cool piece. It was
how many designs did you guys have ready in the beginning? I know when you did the launch event, you had a certain number of shirts were available to buy and whatnot. How many of your custom designs were ready to go?
I don't remember offhand. This was quite a while ago. So this is But I remember. Go ahead.
I know you had a limited edition shirt on blue at the launch concert, and then you had the vintage logo shirts, which were cool. And I still have my brown one. And
we did two different series. So one was the signature series, which is just kind of like your Nike apparel. It's your logo apparel, and those were not limited edition. Right. So those were just the name Vintage Limited on the front of the shirt to represent the brand. And we did some unique ones where we did a suede print on a brown T-shirt. which was cool. I got that, and so it was inspired by a coaster that actually was in a bar one time, and I saw the colors, and I was like, love those color schemes, and I kind of integrated that with the design and came up with something. So I did a lot of those. The one shirt you're talking about, the blue shirt, was called Lion in the City, and that was actually a design that I came up with. I wanted to do kind of like a retro colored T-shirt, so kind of an old and new. There's this scheme of like old and new. That was kind of like a theme that we did, and I wanted Eric to draw a lion walking down the middle of a street, like nobody was going to challenge him. He was the top. He was the top of the heap. He was the man. And he's walking down the street, and the street view, the angle was kind of like in this 3/4, almost like the view of the city was drawing you into the character walking down the middle of it. And then we wanted to do something where the print was 3-dimensional. So the lion and certain elements of the city were coming out of the background. So they were raised up off of the shirt. The background was almost like a spray paint dripping down the front of the shirt with a shadow of the city in the background. And it was very complicated to do this stuff. I mean, you think, though, you come up with these visions and you create the artwork and you have to do all these elements, but there's also a whole element of pre-production where you got to get certain elements that will raise above and certain ones that are flat, and that's a very complicated process. Which is funny. Even the color of the T-shirt. So I got a funny story about that T-shirt. So we wanted to come up. I kind of had this vision for the shirt idea. I wanted to do this retro color. The company I was working for, we were giving away a Thunderbird. This is when Thunderbird just came back. It was re-announced, and they were going to restart selling the Thunderbirds. It was like this retro blue, this baby blue, ice blue, whatever you want to call it, color. And it was very retro looking. And I was like, that's a great color. So I had this machine that you could actually walk up and you could scan the color, and it would give you the Pantone equivalent of whatever that was. I would take this into stores. I would literally be walking through like Macy's or Sears or whatever, and I'd see a color, and I'd walk up to it, and I would click the button, and I would get the color reading, and people would come out of it from the store and go, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" They thought I was, ruining the whatever I was doing, but I was explaining to them what I was doing. Anyway, I used this machine on the car. And I got the color coordinates of it, and then I was coordinating that with our manufacturer. So I started working with a manufacturer in India, and so we wanted to not just do an off-the-rack blank T-shirt. We wanted to get something that was custom-made, had our own specific fit. It was a thicker material. It was combed ring-spun cotton, so it was very high quality with a Lycra rib, so it's quality rib, quality neck. This was not an off-the-shelf, Hanes blank, Gildan blank. This was a custom-made shirt that was to our specifications, to our thickness, and I was very adamant that it needed to be a quality retail product. And part of the manufacturing process was I gave them those colors, and they could mix the color dye to match whatever I wanted them to make color-wise, and then make that specific color that matched the Thunderbird, to get that retro color. And then the artwork was black and white sketch art. Yeah, it turned out really cool. It took a little bit longer. At the launch concert, I had a sample, but we weren't able to come to market with it in time. So we had a couple of our original ones, but that we even had more that we had created that never came to market. Just never got a chance for one reason or another.
Yeah. I think some of the artists had some of your shirts on, too, at the launch event. Somebody was wearing the blue. I remember that one, so...
Yeah, that was Jeremiah Dirt. It was a good friend of mine. He was up on stage, and he had it, I think, over his head, and he was he was the host of the event, so he was promoting the shirt. That was fun. The launch concert was a really good time. That was a way to connect my music work with our current what we were trying to do with the Vintage Limited, and it was fun to get to fly Eric out and Remnant out. So that was the first time they had performed together on stage in years, because they were all dispersed in different parts of the country. So we brought them all together. I flew in some of my friends, the Jeremiah Dirt and Braille, Theory Has It, a lot of these guys that I worked with in the music industry. And we were able to promote it pretty hard and do a nice launch concert.
Yeah, that was really our origin story. Was Wordsmith at that concert as well?
He was, okay, absolutely.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. He became our first model, or your first model in vintage.
He was.
Working on that.
Wordsmith is great. Yeah, Wordsmith is a local artist in Baltimore, and when I started promoting the Vintage Launch concert, I think we were using MySpace at the time. This is kind of back on that hustler mentality. I had an app that would scan MySpace, and you could basically find people of a certain interest. So if they liked certain things, if I had an artist friend that I was working with, I could go scan all of their friends, and it would send messages, DMs to all those people. Hey, so and so, you should come to this concert. I see that you like this artist. You should check this out. And I would send them a link and information, and that was one of the ways that we promoted the show. Utilizing scraping the artist's information from their fans and reaching out to their fans and saying, you guys should check this out. They're going to be here in Maryland. And I think when I did that, that's how Wordsmith actually heard about the show and me and what we were doing, and reached out and said, I really want to be part of this. And I didn't know him at the time.
Okay.
It was nice. A blind blind email. He reached out to me, and okay, that's cool. I really appreciate it. And he was so passionate that he wanted to be there. He was not going to take no for an answer. Not that I told him no, but he wouldn't have taken no for an answer even if I had. And I said, that's really cool. I appreciate your passion. Absolutely want you to be here. And he actually had this song out. I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically an ode to old school hip hop. And when I heard that song, I immediately connected with him and said, yes, I want to help you out too. And that started a relationship with Wordsmith, where I would actually go out to his concerts, and he would have concerts in some of the clubs in Baltimore. I'd set up shop in the back. He'd go up and perform and shout us out and say, go check out, my boy Shaun in the back and what he's got going on. And I helped him in turn try to promote him. Used him as a model to promote the clothing and the lookbooks. And then also, made sure I used our email list to promote his music and what he was doing through our social media channels to promote what he was doing. He's been a great, great friend and a great asset for us getting vintage off the ground.
Yep, very much, very much. So our origin story came about with the concert, the location you had your event. I was actually doing the sound, audio, visual side at that event, and so we had met each other before that, in passing, kind of casual. And with that, you're like, hey, we're doing this event. I'm told that you're the guy to talk to for doing the the sound and all of that, getting it off the ground. And we started talking more about it. I was doing photography also, and he's like, oh, hey, let's get the artists together, do a photo shoot, and and get all the sound and stuff set up. And it kind of became the same passion you had then was infectious, is probably a good way to word it. And it was like, yeah, I want to be a part of what you're doing too. I want to take my skills and talents and help you out any way I can to help you get off the ground. And that became a lot of fun. It was a great first project. And fortunately, I'd been through enough projects like that all the hiccups that happened that we laugh about now really didn't faze me much, because I'm used to it. And I think the funniest thing for me on the other side of the coin, you're running around. You've got people with video cameras. I think you had a camera.
I did.
You're running around trying to announce the show and everything else at the launch event. I'm trying to do sound checks. The artists are like talking to the mic once and leaving.
And they were helping decorate the stage. So I remember I had a friend of mine down in Baltimore City who had a big printing press, and I brought pictures and had him print these large format prints out. And some of the artists were literally helping me cut them out and paste them to these giant 8-foot by 10-foot boards that we decorated the stage. And it was a homegrown effort, but it was a great concert. We probably had almost 1,500 people out there at the event. It was a packed event, and
it was a good turnout.
Yeah, it was. And I remember I set up the website that it would launch at midnight the day that the concert. I had a countdown clock on the website. We promoted it. We hyped it up. Right. And then at midnight, it flipped over. The web store went live, and immediately started taking sales. And then we were promoting the concert that night. And it was Cinco de Mayo. As a matter of fact, I think there was a boxing match that was supposed to come on, and I was really worried because everybody was I don't remember who was fighting. I don't remember. Right. It was 5507. We'll have to Google it and figure out who it was. But there was a big boxing match that night. I think it might have been De La Hoya. I don't remember exactly, but it was. I was worried that people weren't going to come to the show because they were going to go watch this fight, and it ended up working out to our favor. Matter of fact, I think I had my grandmother, my mom, my wife. They were running concessions at the building. we had security guards and just making sure that everything was going to be copacetic and people coming in, and we had the venue was great. It was a place that you and I had congregated, and they were able to open up the doors and let us use the venue. It was a good show, and it was a great way to launch the clothing line. It was a great way to do it, and I wanted to celebrate our couple years of hard work of putting this thing out. And like I said, I go big. I don't go home. I go big all the time. So
just for everybody out there, when Shaun puts on an event, it is an event. It's the greatest thing about your events. The whole family can come, but everybody's gonna have a great time. It was a fantastic show. Everything flowed very well, which is always important at an event. All the issues that happened were all behind the scenes, so everybody there never even realized there was any issues. So that was good.
Yeah, I rented some cameras, some professional cameras, and I had my cousin, who's a videographer, come, and he was taking photos and video. I was doing video. You were recording the concert. To this day, no video has been released from that show, and I'm very sad. I dug through all my mini DVs, and I have a box full of them of the show. At some point, we're gonna have to put some of that stuff out there. This was back in the day where I had good intentions and wanted to record all this stuff and document it, but I didn't know what to do with it because I wasn't experienced in videography like I am today. Yeah, if I didn't know, if I had the skill set today and technology access today that I had then, or vice versa, I would have been able to do something with that. Unfortunately, I it's all cataloged, and at some point we're going to have to release some of this stuff just for prosperity.
Yeah, technology has helped a lot. Technology is the reason I was able to get into video because moving from the photography platform I was on into video. This was before DSLRs could record video. Fortunately, I was at least using digital.
Everything was on tape.
I hooked up. Yep, everything was on tape. I've got boxes full of stuff. Like I saw boxes full of film slides and film negatives and stuff from back in the day too. And all those are great boxes with great intentions that same as I've got hard drives full of data, shots, and things like that are all projects that probably haven't come to life. Maybe one day my kids will go through it and go, hey, these are all bad. Yeah, you never know. But the nice thing about it is you keep going with what you've got, and I have to agree. Someday you'll have to put that out, sit down, and either have somebody do it for you or sit down and do it. I know you, so you'll never have somebody do it for you, but sit down and put that together. I'd love to see the footage you guys shot. I remember a couple of times seeing you running around with a camera on your shoulder, and it's just like, wow, there's nothing this guy's not going to do to get this event the way you want it.
No, you got to be down in the dirt. You got to you got to be in the dirt, in the trenches. You got to get it done, and nobody's going to do it for you. If you want to get it done, you got to get it done yourself. You don't rely on other people. I mean, you need to rely on other people. Obviously, I relied on you a great deal, but you need to be able to show that you can do it yourself. And pick up a camera, picking up a mic, running around. Can I get you some water? Whatever. You just got to get it done.
And my goal on any project like that, where I'm helping somebody out, is this is what I'm doing, and you no longer have to worry about it. And that was it. Okay, the audio is going to go off well. You're not going to have to worry about any other issues with mics or sound or anything. I will automatically correct it. I will fix it. I think I had a couple guys out helping me too, that I kind of guide and direct if I needed something done, and that's always my role. It's like, okay, you put this in my care, don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, the concert was a great experience, and Phil, you were tremendous because you were working the boards, and you're right, that was part of the origin story, how we connected. I remember it was a funny story. So we were at the show, and I said to you, Phil, I'd love to get these guys were wearing our shirts up on stage. It's like, this might be a good opportunity for us to get some photos of the artists and the gear for promotional opportunity. This is how my mind works. I'm on a mile a minute, right? I said, Phil, could you set up some of the equipment in the back, the green screens, and the lighting, and so we could get some shots of these guys. Well, the concert ended up going. Phil, to your gracious nature, you were still recording the show and recording the audio, but you dipped in the back at the same time, and you're setting up lighting, and you're big backdrops with green screens, and you're doing all this. Meanwhile, I'm running around videotaping these guys. We were an hour over playtime. We were supposed to stop at a certain time. We went an hour over. And, of course, we come off the stage. The artists are just exhausted. We just had this giant cipher where we had every artist that performed at the concert up on stage at the same time. And we had a DJ that was spinning the music. That
was awesome.
And they were just passing the mic, and they were just freestyle ciphering for probably a good 45 minutes straight. And we went an hour over. And they came off the stage, and I said, but I didn't have the heart to tell these guys, hey guys, now that you're exhausted, can we go and spend another 45 minutes to an hour getting a photo shoot? And they're all hungry and tired. And so, they wanted to go get something to eat, and I had to go say, Phil, I appreciate the time that you spent putting all this stuff together, but we got to dip. These guys are hungry, and you were gracious and appreciative, and
no problem.
Even the photography. I mean, if it wasn't for you, getting the photos up on the website, that was a big help, and that
was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. I mean, I love doing even the event itself. I love doing live sound. There's you talk about the things you get passionate about. I love the challenge of the setup of getting the sound right in sound checks, and I've never actually had a wonderful sound check, because most artists are like, hey, I'm here and it's 5 minutes before the event and I'm going to say 3 words to the mic, you're good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, let me check the EQs, let me check levels and things like that. And, but we got through all that. There's something about the thrill of the event, getting the sound mixed right, keeping it mixed right all the way through the event, making adjustments and changes as things come up.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, just knowing that you nailed the show. And the nice thing with live sound is that the next event, the next set you do is a whole new thing. So even if you had a rough night and it just wasn't flowing right, the next time you start over, and it's a whole new clean slate. So
yeah.
And the same with photography and stuff. It was I was used to setting up lights by then, and metering and doing all that stuff in the backgrounds, and it was like, okay, I'll shut everything else down, tear down the lights and stuff, and we used it at other times, so it was still all good.
No, yeah, I have a lot of good memories, with vintage, and 7 years. The clothing line ran for 7 years. We did multiple series. Eric creating some amazing artwork, and me putting it on the apparel, and I would be in my basement folding every piece that would go out the door and hand numbering every label that would go in every shirt and taking it to the post office and mailing every shirt. We did a CD that was called Reinvintage. It was a combination of obviously the word reinvented and vintage, Reinvintage. And it was a mixtape that we worked with a friend of mine, Theory Has It, who came up with a collection of classical music. I say classical hip hop music, like the hieroglyphic song I mentioned, and EPMD and Run DMC, and just a lot of old classic stuff, combined with some of the artists like Braille, like Theory Has It, Remnant, and we put this mixtape together, and we put it out on each shirt. So each shirt that would go out in the mail would have a copy of this mixtape, which kind of a la what Echo did when they first started. So part of the streetwear mentality of Echo when they first started is they would put mixtapes attached to each shirt, and I thought that was a cool idea, and so we did something similar to that, with our Reinvintage, and then we did another one called Breakers Only that was all breakdance kind of 80s, early 90s hip hop. It was inspired to do different mixtapes like that, and it worked. And it worked. And we did a lot of our sales were through just guerrilla marketing, word of mouth, hitting the message boards, letting people know about it, talking about it. We were very lucky to have some great celebrities and artists wearing our stuff. Matter of fact, I remember a story. One time I just got blown up with sales. I'm sitting here looking at my phone, and I hear ding, 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 and I get a notification every time we get a sale. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I picked up my phone, and we probably had about 200 sales in one night. So I looked online. I'm looking at Google Analytics, and I'm like, where is this traffic coming from? And I saw that B.O.B, this artist, had this song called Airplanes. And he was a Grammy-nominated artist. He was a platinum artist, and he was on tour with Rihanna. And he was doing a concert He came out on stage, held up our shirt on stage, took his off, and put it on. And it was this shirt called "I'm a Beast." It was a black and white shirt with some fangs on the front. On the back, it said "I'm a Beast."
I remember that.
And he, mentioned Vintage Limited. He wore the shirt up on stage, and the chorus of the song, I think, even had something to do with the shirt. And from that moment, we had an increase in sales overnight from him being on tour with Rihanna. We were one of the other stores. So Eric had connections with this artist named Four Eyes, who's friends with Ludacris. Of course, Ludacris from Fast and Furious, and there's multiple artists and albums that he's put out. They were on Wrestlemania. There was a Wrestlemania where it was The Undertaker versus Triple H, and the artist was right behind the announcers. So every time they would cut to the announcers, he was wearing our shirt, front and center, front stage at Wrestlemania, the biggest venue of the year. And let's see, I remember, one of the other ones, one of the first times I got with Wordsmith, we were going out to a lot of these different venues, setting up stage, and Souls of Mischief happened to be performing there. So some of the artists that are in Souls of Mischief are also in hieroglyphics. Remember, the name of Vintage was from that. I got to meet those guys, and I got a picture with them, which was cool. And I even explained to them. I even gave them a couple of the shirts. I was like, I feel like I owe this to you. Like this, you inspired the name, and I gave them that. So I remember, some of the other artists. It was Paz from De La Soul. He was wearing our shirts. There was some artists that were in music videos. I can't remember them all, and I'm gonna kick myself later for not remembering all the artists that kind of helped pave the way for us and helped us along the way. But it was a number of them, and really it was I'm privileged to have that opportunity to have it on the backs of some really good celebrities and artists.
And obviously we know where Vintage ended up, but had you had some of these social media tools and aspects of what we have today, do you think that would have changed the outcome?
For sure. I mean, Facebook was there. We weren't really utilizing it to the full capacity. Instagram didn't exist. For sure, you couldn't attach products like you can do sales right now. So you can, if you have a photo of an artist wearing your shirt, that shirt can come up where you can click on it and go buy it. Right. And we didn't have access to that stuff back in the day. I mean, it was MySpace. It was early Facebook days. We were. I even think one of the shout outs on the Reinvintage CD is, check us out at myspace.com/vintage limited. I was like, today it's cringeworthy to even say that, but
you had to start somewhere.
Exactly,
that's where it was back then. So these modern day tools weren't available.
They weren't
the capacity they were, and certainly
even cutting video,
jumping
YouTube.
In somewhere was right.
Even cutting video for YouTube was a difficult process. You didn't have a camera in your pocket that you could record HD 4K video. It was a flip phone. It was a Motorola Razr. Like, you didn't have access to some of the tools that you had now. And I miss that, because if I had those opportunities, I would have taken it and I would have done it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And we had a lot of fun. I mean, in the Vintage days, I remember a story. Eric and I went out to Las Vegas. His wife and my wife and him and I, and we went out to Vegas, and we went to the Magic Trade Show. And if you know anything about the apparel industry, the trade show in Vegas is like once or twice a year. It's where all the clothing manufacturers go and they set up shop, and they have a booth at the event, and all the buyers from the stores, they come and they shop, and they go around to the different venues or the different trade show booths, and they get to see. But it's a party. It's not a trade show booth like stuffy suits and people walking around. This is a party atmosphere. There's a DJ spinning. Mos Def happened to be there. He was up on stage rapping. I mean, there was people walking around handing drinks out. Like, it was a party atmosphere, but it was a trade show, and people were there to buy. And it was we went to go just soak up this experience, and we were actually going to have a booth there and work with buyers to get out in front of that. So we just kind of went to go soak up that atmosphere and see what we need to do to come back the next year and do that trade show. Those experiences like that really helped shape Eric and my career, and learn. In the basement of the Magic Trade Show is where all the work is. So the party's upstairs. The party's upstairs where all the vendors are and the buyers are. In the basement is the textile section. It's where all the countries are represented. So there is booths from India, there is booths from China, there is booths from Guatemala, there is booths from all over the world, and you get to go as a manufacturer, go connect with these factories and talk to them and see what kind of apparel they can make. And I met a hat manufacturer there that we actually connected with, and we started making some hats and some hoodies with different countries. And so you got to expand into jackets, and there was a footwear manufacturer, and we were experimenting, trying to figure out what are the different avenues that we could get into and expand beyond just a t-shirt line into a full-fledged line. Did we want to get into denim? If we did, who were we going to go with? There's different import and export regulations that you got to look at, because you're going to get taxed differently through tariffs in certain countries. If you want to go with, Peru. Peru had some fantastic flush silk, different combinations of cotton. A Pima cotton, for example. Pima cotton is amazing feel to it, very premium feel. Peru is great for manufacturing that kind of stuff. India, the company that we went through manufacturing our t-shirts, is fantastic with textiles. So you kind of learn the experiences of different countries and cultures and what they have to offer, and that was again another experience with vintage that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think every stage has been a learning experience through the process. I remember
100%.
when we did our first photo shoot, and when we're talking about it, collaborate. You're like, hey, I know where the location's going to be. This is it. I'm like, all right, great. We picked a night. You're like, I want it right at sunset. I want the models in front of the sun setting, and I've got the scene, and we get there, and I'm like, did you have a permit for this? We picked one of the local malls.
This is all underground, man. This is
right. Picked one of the local malls, and I'm driving over, going, I wonder if he thought about permits or anything for this. And it's like, well, we'll wing it. So I get there. You have any permits for this? He's like, permits? We need permits. So, well, it's a pretty notable mall, and they tend to want permits for this stuff. We weren't there even 5 minutes, and security came up and chased us
off the roof. Yeah, we were up on the roof.
Yeah, and you were like, what are we going to do? And I'm like,
improvise.
Let's find a parking garage. And you're like, so we went up on a parking garage, and by then the sun had set. Mm-hmm. And you're like, Phil, I don't have the shots. And I'm like, look, we're going to start shooting. And then we walked out into the street, and we ended up having a totally different, when you talk about happy accidents, we had a totally different shoot. We did some long exposure with the traffic in the background of one of the cities. And
I remember standing in the middle of the highway, in the middle of the street, hoping I didn't get hit. Standing there posing with a hoodie and a hat on, and cars whizzing by me. And the slow motion that you did actually got all that blur of the headlights whizzing by, and it just made, like you said, happy accident. You get that cool creativity. When we were creating a lookbook, and for folks who don't know what that is, a lookbook is, if you have a clothing line, you do models in lifestyle shots, and that's wearing your stuff. And it's just exactly what it sounds like. It's a lookbook, the looks that people were after. And Phil, that's what we're discussing, is we took a lot of photographs of myself and a couple models. A Wordsmith was there. And it was a young lady, I can't remember her name, but she was on
the second one, actually. So it was just, the first one was just Wordsmith, and you stepped in as a model, and we I remember walking around the town with a tripod and a remote light, and hoping again we wouldn't get stopped or questioned or whatever.
I remember a couple times we were
fly under the radar, and
I remember standing in the middle of the street going, Phil, just get the shot, get the shot. And you're fooling with the camera and you're messing with the settings, and I'm like, just take the picture, Phil. Come on, we got to get out of here.
Which is typical, because as a photographer, I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with long exposures. So and Wordsmith was fantastic. As a model, definitely standing still for multiple second long exposures without blurring the shot was incredible. And you're like, but we gotta get the shot, and I'm like, it's not gonna turn out right if I don't do this. And then when you saw the shots, you're like, oh man, that's amazing.
That's a lesson in patience for me. That's what that was. It was a lesson in patience, and I'm like, we just gotta get it done. But right. it was like, relax, I got this. You gotta get to make sure the settings are right, and the exposure, the f-stop, and that was a learning experience, because I didn't know photography at the time. Now I do, and I can empathize with what you were working with and working through.
Yeah, fortunately, it wasn't my first shoot, so I was already used to people saying, "Hey, we just come in and sit down and we take the picture and we're good to go, right?" That's all we got to do, And
Sure.
and of course, the 2 hours before setting everything up, if it's studio work and lighting and stuff, and that is part of the photographer's role. Take care of all those things, then bring the person in, get the shot. And then they go on their merry way. I never get invited to dinner, by the way. The artists all go out to dinner. I'm there tearing the gear down.
I did invite you at the launch concert, if you remember, but you had to tear down the equipment.
I still had to tear down and get ready for the next day.
That was an interesting dinner, man. You go out to a local diner with about 30 rappers, and and their friends, and you walk into a Baltimore diner, and they're like, "What is going on here?" That was an interesting experience.
I bet.
Talk about an interesting experience, man. I would be remiss if I didn't mention two people that were pretty instrumental. One was Trey Palmisano. He helped, came in. Actually, he wrote an article on me for the local newspaper when he heard about the Vintage launch concert. Probably through my efforts, reaching out through the different social media to promote the concert is how he heard about me. Reached out to me. He was writing an article for a local paper, interviewed me and put that out. And then him and I became friends. He actually ended up writing some of our blog posts for the Vintage Limited website. We had a blog, and even connected me with certain models. Became friends with Wordsmith too. Trey was definitely instrumental in helping me with a lot of the stuff with vintage. The other person I'd be remiss to mention is DJ Bonezelli, Justin Morrison.
Yeah.
So DJ Bonezelli. It was an interesting. We were podcasting back in the day with 1 million listeners, long before the Random Convos Over Coffee podcast. This was back in 2000. And let's say so. The launch concert was 2007. I'd say probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around there is when we started. Maybe even later than that. But we started a podcast called the Vintage Beat Lab Podcast, and it was up on iTunes. It was everywhere. And it was basically DJ Bonezelli, who would travel the world. He was a professional hockey player, and he would travel all internationally. And he would pick up beats from different artists that were just instrumental, urban hip hop, whatever you want to call it, EDM songs that we're talking like Mad Lib type style and artists like that. And he would find these collections of music, and he would put them together, and he had a very unique style where he would take little clips from movies. So you'd hear this little clip from a movie that you'd recognize, and he would put them in there, and it would, because there's no lyrics in the music, it was just all music for about an hour, just mixed beats that would just flow, a constant mixtape, and he would kind of cut it up with different movie clips that were just, it was cool, and we had 47, 50 some episodes where he would cut those mixtapes together, and it would shout out to vintagelimited.com. And matter of fact, I hired the voice of Duke. I can't remember his last name, but Duke was amazing. He had this very deep, distinct voice. Matter of fact, I think he was one of the voice of the Transformers in the movies. And so he did a lot of PSAs for the radio. He just had a very deep, distinct voice. And so I hired Duke to do some readovers. And so he would do this, welcome to the Vintage Beat Lab podcast, and brought to you by DJ Bonezelli and VintageLimited.com. And so we would, this collaborative effort between DJ Bonezelli and me to put these mixtapes out was just another grassroots means to promote the clothing line. Cost us basically nothing to put it together. Again, just getting into the trenches. I figured out how to put a podcast together. I figured out how to promote it, how to get it on Apple iTunes. How do you do these things and put that stuff out there to help grassroots guerrilla marketing promote the clothing line with a $0 shoestring budget, so to speak.
Hey, it works. It works. Pretty fascinating. And then we went into a second lookbook because you started adding a ladies line to vintage as well, and had some ladies specific. We did stuff out by one of the local colleges, and did some stuff out in the fog. That was cool. The night scene. You liked the night scene so much that you didn't even bother trying to do anything but another night scene on the second lookbook, and that was neat too. And the same thing. setting up shots, run and gun style. How can we get in, get the shots, and get out without getting chased away this time? And,
right.
The second one definitely went a lot better.
It felt like Mission Impossible. We were trying not to get cut. You see the cops or the cameras. It was like, okay, we're going to find the alternative angle of this, so we don't get chased away by security.
Right. Yep. So, and then of course, fighting fog and mist. We had, excuse me, we had some of the shots with the mist, and I remember you're like, Phil, the shots are grainy. I'm like, that's actually just the mist in the air, and and that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think we were over at Towson University, and we had the clock tower that was all lit up.
Clock tower,
and Wordsmith was wearing we had a hoodie that was released on Black Friday. We called it the Black Friday hoodie, and it had a silver lion down the chest, which was in a silver foil, and he was wearing the hat. It was a very cool shot with the clock tower all lit up and him in the front. Yeah, that was a cool lookbook.
Yeah, we did the catwalk over the one mall to the one hotel out there, and that was where by then the mist had set in, and we were fighting everything else and the lighting and stuff. But it was another fun evening and a good event, good time. So. Yeah,
it was always fun. We had some adventures trying to take pictures for the lookbooks, didn't we? Yeah, the Krylon tears, that was an interesting piece. That was another one I came up with the idea, and Eric executed it amazingly. I had the vision of I wanted to tell a story, and it was a woman who was in distress with this flowing gown that was, you don't know where she was or what she was coming from, but she had this flowing gown and this flowing hair, and she was crying into a book, and she had a book in her hands, and the tears that were falling out of her face would hit the pages of the book, and the pages of the book would form into doves that would fly off of the pages. So the drawing was her in this pose, and the tears falling, and the book pages morphing into doves that were flying off. And it was named after Krylon tears. Krylon obviously is a paint product that graffiti writers would use, and since our art style was very urban-esque, wanted to use some of that. The art style was very watercolor and sketch, and Eric did an amazing job of bringing that vision I had to life. I think I sketched it on a napkin, and I scanned the napkin, and I sent it to him, and I said, check this out, and could you do something like this? And I was telling him the story. To this day is one of my favorite drawings. That inspired the women's line that we did. And I remember tracking down a DTG printer in New Jersey or New York. DTG is direct to garment. It's where if you have a very complex print and screen color, if you were going to screen print it, it would probably be 16 different versions of ink, and the graphics wouldn't be super sharp. When you do DTG, think of it a giant printer the size of a desk, and the shirt goes into the printer, and the printer, just like a print head, would move back and forth as it puts the graphic onto the shirt. And then you put it through a baking element that would bake that graphic into the fabric. So when you washed it, it didn't come out. In order to do this, very, very complex. There's all different levels of DTG printing machines out there. A lot of them are very cheap. They don't last very long. They smell like vinegar, and the print will come off after a couple washes. I think it was a Cornig, if I remember. I don't remember the exact name of it. But there's a very specific printer. It's very, very expensive. And if you're able to find the printer with that technology, they could do DTG printing very, very well. I happened to find one. It was a small company in New Jersey or New York. They were just getting started, so they were willing to work with me on small quantities. And we did a round of tests where I sent them the artwork, and they were running it. We finally got it, and I wanted it to run down the side of the shirt. So if you think of the women's form, the character was on the side of the shirt where she's crying, and the tears, and it's forming the doves, and the doves are flying up kind of from the bottom left part of her side into the front of the shirt. So it's a very unique placement. It's very difficult to do because you need a shirt that doesn't have a seam that runs down the side. So if you have a seam that runs down the side, you can't print over it. So it has to be a full wraparound cotton. The cotton has to have no seams. It has to have a specific fit. It has to have a specific cotton element that'll take the DTG print, and it'll stick to it, and it won't wash off. So there's a lot of complex stuff that goes into to manufacturing this. We finally pulled it off, and I got a full run of these shirts. I was super proud. and it turned out amazing. And that Krylon Tears shirt is probably one of my favorites. We did it in 2 colorways, but the grape colorway with the woman with a lighter lilac purple dress with the flowing hair, and she's crying into the pages, and it's an amazing story. Matter of fact, I want to get a print of it, and I can put it back here in the office on the wall. I really would like to do that on a canvas run.
Yeah,
but Eric nailed the vision and did an amazing piece of art.
Yeah, my mom bought one of those, and my daughter Lucy wears it now. So
that's awesome.
It's still around, but
that
was an awesome piece. I was certainly. Like you said, outstanding representation of the vision and the execution on the shirt, the seamless, all the things that went into that to make it flow the way it was designed to flow was incredible. And another one of those, nobody knows what goes behind the scenes. They see the shirt, they take it for granted. Hey, all shirts are made this way, and working in printing, which I work in printing, knowing the complexities behind the scenes. And people are like, oh, hey, you send it to a printer, it prints. And it's like, well, not really.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, it would, but, in life, it's got its complexities. But that's what, the companies behind the scenes are there to solve for you.
Exactly. And if it was super easy, then everybody would do it. So,
right.
There's a difference between somebody who just has an off-the-shelf blank and a one-color print, with their brand name on it, and trying to sell that for $30, and somebody who's getting stuff imported from foreign countries and who has to deal with all of that, which is importation and freight forwarding and all the complexities of dealing with an outsourced manufacturing. You need to make sure that you're dealing with a reputable company who's not a sweatshop, who's a family-owned business, who's doing it right. And I did that. I did all the logistics and made sure that I was dealing with a company. It was a son who took it over from his father. It was a company-run, a family-run business that was very ethical. And I felt good dealing with them and doing business with them. We had a good rapport. I mean, that stuff's important, right? You don't want to deal with a company who's paying low wages and mistreating their employees and unsafe working conditions. That stuff's very important, and that was very important to me. And I was very proud of what we did with the company. Unfortunately, things happened where our lives go in different directions. I got tired of being at the bars and the clubs and trying to hawk T-shirts. I'd be walking out to my car with, thousands of dollars worth of gear and risk my life if I was going to get, jacked or people stealing or holding me up for the money that I made that night. Or the long hours that I spent, away from my kids, doing the business stuff and grinding and, keeping up with the website, and you just kind of get drained after a while when you're doing so much. Like I said, I did everything from the business aspect that I could, from the financing to the taxing, accounting, to the folding and hand labeling the shirts, to doing a lot of the business stuff, just the logistical side of it, and you get burned out. And so the decision finally came in December of 2014. Made a decision that we were going to shut down Vintage Limited, and Eric and I, he was focusing on his art and building his brand in Atlanta or in Georgia, and I was was about to take a job opportunity that was going to be life changing for me, and so I needed to focus on that, and so we decided it was the right call. What clothing we had left, I packed it up and I donated it to charity. And so, we were able to do good with what we had left. But, those memories of running the line and the time that, you and I spent late nights at the house setting up, trying to photo shoot the gear to get it up on the website and the lookbook stuff and all the life experiences and all the different things over those years, from 2007 to 2014, that 7-year run was definitely life changing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So through all that, I mean, some of the things that I got to dabble into with the product photography, doing more modeling work was fun. Some of the different aspects that came through it. I mean, I still remember coming into your basement and clothes everywhere, and the boxes, the products, the shipment came in. Here's what we need to do. Setting up where we could set up to, do the shoots, do whatever we need to get done, and it was a lot of fun. It was certainly a wonderful experience for me and a good, life-changing event. Really, just simply because I got to be a part of. Another business, another company. Like I said before, I love businesses. I love how they work. I love how people come up with ideas and concepts and how they execute on those and whatnot. So for me personally, it was an exciting project too, just in that aspect alone. So it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Good deal. My kids will hear this and they'll kind of hear some of the stories, but I actually have a couple. I have one of every shirt packed in a box for each of them. So I have a package for Haley, a package for Landon, and a package for Tyler of some gear that I put aside so that when they get old enough, they'll have that. And I still have number one edition of every shirt that we own. Of course, it's a 2X, and now we're an extra large, so I can't wear them anymore. But it's more just for posterity, I guess you would say. I good collection that sits in my closet, but I'm never going to let those go because it reminds me all the effort and time and stuff that we put into it.
Yeah, and somewhere I still have the clothing tags, and I still have my brown vintage, the fuzzy shirt. I love that one. That was
the signature series.
Yeah, the signature series. That was one of the first ones I think that you gave me, and I ended up getting a second one later on. I think probably when you were closing things down because I had wore the first one.
Yeah, I remember. I started giving up.
And you were like, "Oh, I got an extra one." I'm like, "Hey, man, I'll take it. If you have it in my size, I'll take it."
So 7 years later, clothing line's been shut down since 2014. It's 2021 now, so it's been quite a few years since the clothing line is closed its doors. Just recently, there was a post from somebody on Facebook that said they had went to go see Black Widow, the Marvel movie, and it was their first time back in a theater in 2 years. He was wearing a vintage shirt. I was like, that is so cool. I just happened to see it randomly on Facebook, and then I got a phone, not a phone call, but a DM from somebody who's like, "Hey, you guys still making those T-shirts? This one that I had, the jacket, the Black Friday jacket, finally gave out on me, and it was my favorite. Do you guys still sell it? Do you have any more of those left?" Every once in a while, I'll get a message like that or a DM, or I'll see a post or somebody's wearing the stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, it just makes me smile because I appreciate it.
It should. Yeah. I actually pulled the Lookbook up online the other day. Another gentleman that I work with, starting his own clothing line, and he's been right now doing the print from home, and was looking at different options to try to get same kind of hustle, but using modern day social media and the tools that are available. And I was showing him some of the stuff that you and I did together, and he thought that was pretty cool too. So it is neat.
Well, good deal. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this one up.
Yep, that's a good spot.
Yeah, I appreciate. I appreciate you guys listening to us. Kind of reminisce and talk about some of these stories, and hopefully you get some value out of it. Appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. So happy listening, and hope everybody here has a great week. And we'll catch you next time.
Have a good week. See you guys.
All right. See ya.
Bye.